New problems need new thinking. This program is proudly brought to you by IBM. Let's put smart to work.
Well, there have been plenty of winners and losers as a result of COVID-19, but for co-founder and CEO of software company Atlassian, Mike Cannon-Brookes, it's been very rewarding indeed, with his personal fortune doubling since the pandemic. To tell us more about what life is like on the rich list for the Aussie tech entrepreneur and why our tech sector punches above its weight, I'm joined by the Australian's technology editor, David Swan. David, good to see you. Why has Atlassian done so well during this time?
Yeah, good to be with you too, Laura. And for the last episode of this season of the / podcast, we talked to Mike Cannon-Brookes, and Atlassian, one of those tech companies like Zoom, like Slack as well, where our entire workforce, or a large chunk of it, has shifted to remote work. And Atlassian does stuff for software for teams and for remote work, and they've really just ridden the wave. And both Mike Cannon-Brookes' personal wealth and Atlassian's value have just skyrocketed during the pandemic.
What about the company's global prospects?
Yeah, so they're this really Sydney-born company where, I've been reporting on them for 5 or 6 years now. I know this quite small, modest Sydney company back in the day, and now they are truly a global company. They're listed on Wall Street, and the US is by far their biggest market. So they're truly an Aussie success story that really are kicking goals globally. Yeah,
they were looking to anchor the tech sector around their new development in Sydney. Is that still going ahead?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's going to be one of the biggest offices in Sydney. It's going to be this 30-storey hybrid timber building, the tallest hybrid timber building in the world. But they're going ahead with it, even if as we're shifting to more remote work and maybe a hybrid model where sometimes you work from home and sometimes you work from the office. They're pushing ahead with it, and they said there's still going to be enough demand from tech workers to be able to fill their space.
He's really pushing the environmental buttons as well. What's behind this advocacy?
Yeah, so the way he frames it, and we talk about this a lot in the podcast, is that it's an economic issue for Australia, the way he sees it, that if we don't get this right, the cost in terms of the economy and jobs is huge. So he frames it not just as the environment, but also, the economy, jobs, and the future of Australia more broadly.
Does he have his eyes on politics, do you think?
I've put it to him because he's very political, particularly on Twitter, where he likes to clap back at Scott Morrison and other politicians. He ruled it out, though. He described himself as too honest for politics, and he said he'd make a horrible politician.
Well, we'll see. We've heard plenty of candidates say that before and eventually run for politics. I just wanted to ask you one final question about the business being centred around Sydney. That's obviously due to a global pandemic changing the situation for many companies, of course. Ultimately, that's a good thing to have a company like Atlassian doing more work out of Australia, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a big vote of confidence, and I think it would have been very easy for someone like Atlassian or Mike to, and Mike's very critical of Australia's failings when we don't get it right when it comes to tech, for example, so he could have just packed up his bags and gone elsewhere. But I think it's a big vote of confidence to be pouring all this money into Sydney, and, we do cop a lot of flak for maybe not having the best tech industry, but I think with what Mike's doing, there is a lot of potential, and he's putting his money where his mouth is.